The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown.
Do you ever feel like you're being watched?
Do you believe in cryptids?
Have you ever seen one?
Supernatural or cryptid? What is it? Are they friend or foe? Oh, what's that? Have you ever had an experience with something unidentifiable? Are you afraid to tell your story?
Don't be. So we're here to listen.
We are the Southern Appalachia Sasquatch Seekers.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Hope everybody's had a good weekend.
I had a list typed up of the sister shows, and we found a couple of things we need to add to it. So we'll finish that up and get it on for the next show. And Gary, yours was, I think I had messed yours up or didn't have it on there, and another one Donna saw. So we'll get those fixed. We got Gary and
Sherry Tango,
Bobby Younce,
Skitter Operator, God Guns and Ammo. Welcome, everybody. We're glad to have you here tonight.
Spencer Woodwalker's show just quit, so it may take everybody kind of a few minutes to get back in. Did you say Skitter, Donna?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Sherry Tango, Squirrel. It moved on me. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about what we got coming up. But Kumbo's going to be on. It's going to be a little bit different show. I was talking to Dawn about it yesterday, and I mean, we really didn't have anybody lined up for today. Was it yesterday or the day before yesterday?
Yesterday.
And sometimes you wonder, especially from a Christian perspective, do we need to be doing what we're doing when we go out hunting these things? And I actually wanted Kumbo and another friend to come on, and they're trying to move, so he couldn't come on yet. He's going to come do a show as soon as he gets kind of caught up, but it's going to be a while. So we're going to have Kumbo, and he and Troy are to me the experts. If there are any experts on this, it's them, because they lived with them so much. And I think it'll be a really good show once we get there and get them on that and asking questions. But we're going to start it kind of today, and maybe from a Bible's perspective part of it too, and see what Kumbo has to say about that. And if y'all have any questions or anything, one of you wants to pop on to Kumbo gets on or something, or even come on with the show, let us know and we'll send you the link. We can't get too many on, but we can take one person maybe if you want to come in and talk about this with us today.
And just remember, if you got questions, please put them in caps for me. I've got the old eyes; I can't see that well.
And make sure you put your email on there so I know where to put the link. Okay.
Hey, Misty.
Misty, I watched Woodwalkers had a really good show. If you didn't watch it,
Yep.
Go over there and watch that, after this or whatever, when you can. And it was a really good show today. There's Pyro
And Miss Brenda. Everybody's coming in.
we know that woodwalkers just kind of quit, and this is supper time for, especially if you're the one that fixes supper. You got to kind of run and hurry and do something and get back on. But we appreciate you coming in.
Oh, Gary, I wished I was still a youngster. No, I don't. I've had a good life.
I don't want to go back to the same mistakes more than once for sure.
No, you and me both.
Still make them, but don't want to make the same ones again.
Skidder operator said Janice Carter seems to know a lot too.
If that's the Janice Carter that I know of, I'm sure she probably does. I don't know if it's her or not, for sure.
I would say it probably is.
Janice, are you the one that they kind of lived with you?
I don't know if Janice is on here or not. Skidder operator said that.
Oh, okay. I thought I saw her on here. That must not have been. I guess I just saw the name too. Yeah, she was a lot older than. How old is she now, Skidder? When I was watching the videos, I mean, she wasn't a young woman on the YouTube shows for some of the other researchers. If you know her, or if she still got some stuff out there, if you'll shoot that to me in an email, we'll put that up too, so everybody can still kind of check out. She may be still having activity.
50 years with Bigfoot. Sorry.
Yeah, okay. Y'all see that? You need to go to that site and see if you can find it, because she lived all these things.
Yeah, we're hoping we'll have a pretty decent show tonight.
Shows have been really good. The last one turned out to be a really good show too. The last two, especially, all of them have been, but wouldn't be without you all watching.
Yeah. Hey, Miss Leanne.
Tim Kumbo Baker.
You got him?
Hey, buddy.
There he is.
Hey.
Hey, well, like your backdrop. What does it say?
Well, thank you.
What's
it
your
says official Bigfoot Sasquatch research team.
That's a cool.
This thing's got a wider.
Donna's got a shirt. Look, Donna's got the shirt on. It matches it.
Yeah, I think Troy gave me this.
Okay. I tried to get Troy to come up, but he just can't do it right now where they're moving and stuff.
Miss Verby gave me mine.
Yeah.
And this thing's got a wider field of view than I thought. All that crap there. And can y'all see my? Can you see my? I don't guess you can see my mouse moving around on the screen, can you?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, all that crap right back there and right back there wasn't supposed to show up.
Well,
it doesn't show up on my laptop.
This back here is actually shower curtains, because this was where it was my office where I worked until I retired. And I've got and we get with Billy online and we play music, and so we've got it's cluttered. I got all my kayak and stuff over there, so I ordered these, and then I just did some drawings and put in there. If you can see, like I've got the jester and the Bigfoot and the spaceship. Everything on there.
Best thing in here is my shovel. Well, a good shovel.
Oh yeah,
burying dead bodies
or self-defense.
You know, sometimes you have to practice the 3 S's: shoot, shovel, and shut up. And, this will dig through roots. No, this is a metal detecting shovel. Anyway, I saw it sitting over there. Since I've gotten back into metal detecting, Sandy and I have dug up a 5-gallon bucket full of everything from mule shoes to tractor parts, spark plugs, and all kind of crap. And I've dug up 1 penny.
Do you find more like on level places and valleys, or like tops of hills, do you think? I don't know how much you've done it yet. Where do you seem to find the most stuff?
Well, out here, we'll find 150, 200 pieces of some kind of iron, like old nails, pieces of fence wire, a tractor part that's broken off, old cultivator tips, old junk like that. We'll find, handfuls of that for every one thing that's made out of something else.
They won't
And,
let you do that on the lake bottoms. Our lake goes down right down here. It's just below the house. And Dawn and I kayak a lot. And we've been wanting to do that down there, but I think every time somebody's went down there to do that, they run them off, tell them they can't do it down there.
yeah.
I don't see what it hurts. You're not digging that deep anyway. And
Are
the
we
water, huh?
Are we live now?
Yeah, we're live.
Oh, okay. Okay. I didn't know. But so anyway, we had to. This is the first time I've been online in the office here since we rearranged the.
Got your
house.
place got your nice set up.
Yeah, got a nice setup, but this chair is about it. This is a super comfortable chair, but it was fake leather and it's all coming apart. But it's
Yeah, they'll do that.
Don't matter as long as it sits good.
yeah, it sits good. In fact, I'm reared back here and it makes my gut look big. Let me sit up a little straighter.
I was trying all day to figure out, what to do for a show. You don't want to do the same things over and over. You want to kind of delve a little bit deeper. And I got to thinking, I guess maybe one or two of us have discussed this just a little bit, like when we'd see each other. We got a lot of researchers, even in the group that, don't have shows, there's a lot of researchers out there. I mean, my question was, do you think that we should be looking for them?
Well,
From maybe from a Bible perspective, but not just that, period.
I mean, there's as much reason to look for them and learn about them as there is anything else here on the earth.
Yeah.
The other living creature on the earth. And, there's one thing about them, the more you know about them, the more you realize what you don't know. That's one thing I've discovered. And it's just, hey, everybody, Larry and Spencer and Gary and Pyro and
Leanne.
I'm trying to think who else. See, Skidder Operator and no, Pyro, my plans for next weekend have not changed. No, I'm going to be, I'll holler at you later. I'm going to be in Clayton. So, anyway, but yeah, Spencer's right. It's more about your attitude that you have when you're going looking for them. Now, if you're going looking for them to kill them, no, that ain't the right way to do it.
Yeah.
And I think any people out there that have tried that in the past have figured out pretty quickly it was a bad idea. I'd say most of them are no longer with us, but they're, I just, I've been knowing about these things since I was, just a baby, 3 years old, 2, 3, almost. Actually, first time I ever heard about them, wasn't even 2 years old. I mean, wasn't even 3 years old. I was, and I wasn't anybody telling me anything about them. It was just, I heard them carrying on, and then when they killed 6 of the 7 dogs belonging to the family, one of the families lived here on the farm. Then was the first time I ever was aware of anybody talking about them, and it's the first time I ever knew a name for them. Of course, I'm sure that it was discussed around me other times when I was a little bitty kid, and I just never paid any attention to it. But when I heard that thing screaming and yelling and carrying on, and it didn't. I got to asking, my grandfather, my dad, what is that? And it's when I first heard about catamounts, and which I know in a lot of the country, catamount is a cougar or a mountain lion, but
You think
around
it
here.
was? You think it was because of the yell? That's why people called them that. Some to start with, they might have thought it was like.
Yeah, being,
I wondered when I heard you talking about that before.
yeah, I don't know, but I think it's perfectly legit to study these things, and I mean, to me, they're one of the most mysterious things here on the planet. One of the things that that they're so close to us, but then they have these other abilities that we've never been able to quite figure out. Yeah, they use infrasound, but so do quite a few other animals, elephants, turkeys, tigers. Some with some of the like orcas, and some of the whales and dolphins and stuff use infrasound. But but why are they interested in us? I truly think that to the juvies, we're their favorite entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
They probably look at us and say, well, why are they doing that? Why do they have that? Or what does that do? And hey, I like to think of they're up there, hey, Oog, you ain't got a hair on your butt if you don't run down there and slap that camera. I mean, so many times before they go and do something, we'll hear them mumbling back and forth. We'll hear them, and then here they come doing it. And I know what was funny was talking to one of the campground managers up in the Smoky Mountains back years ago, and hearing them talk about they would know they were there. They would hear them up in the woods, and they'd hear them talking back and forth, and they knew they were carrying on conversation because it'd be they'd hear them. They could tell the different voices, and all of a sudden they'd get quiet, and in just a minute, they'd hear them. It sounded almost like, and we've heard this before too, almost like the Three Stooges. One of them, and then whap, they'll slap the other one, and but then here they'll come running through the campsite, and then they run out, and one of the things at this particular place, there was a berry patch nearby, and they'd go pile off in the bearberries, and they'd hear them talking again, and here they'd come running back through the campground. But that's well, that only does that to a few. The infrasound doesn't disable but a few people that are extra sensitive to it.
Right.
They can. I've known of a couple of people that it would disable them, and we'd have to sort of grab them and push them where we wanted to go, or get the sort of shake them and get them out of it, and to get them to, if we're having to make a quick exit, to get them back into a vehicle. But they like me, it'll well, I've played around with it in the lab enough that I've made myself sick. I've never been sick in the field, but I've been somewhat disoriented. And no, Spencer.
Hey,
and,
I just
and,
want
I was hit by infrasound really, really bad back on the point one day when some folks were down, and for some reason I thought that Spencer had his recording equipment set up, and before I called him up right there into the parking lot. Sorry about that, Spencer. I couldn't miss. That was a big one out there. I just couldn't take a swing at. But anyway, yeah, I've seen people disoriented. I've seen people go into shock. I've seen people sort of lock up. I know I had and this is provable in the lab, in a lab environment. I one time had saw an apparition close to me. It looked like just a big gray, like a gray fuzzy basketball went past me, and scared the bejeebers out of me. And then I found out later on that was an effect that can happen when they hit the resonance frequencies of your eyeballs, and it could be related to missing time, because there are people that they don't realize what's happened to them, and I've known a couple of people that it took them a whole had to go through a sleep cycle before their brain would reset. But okay, yeah. Talking about Gary there. Yeah, see what he just posted up. But it's like I said, it affects everybody differently, and plus the effect is different according to the which animal does it, and what frequencies that they actually hit. The infrasound has the most effect on the human body, in my experience, from around 15, 17 hertz down to about 6 or 7 hertz or cycles per second. And the area from about 9 to 12 seems to have the strongest effect on people. And people always want to know, yeah, you can, that's correct. See, we can't hear the infrasound. So we don't know when they're using it or not. We can feel the effect of it, but they will mix it in with their talk. And plus, one of the things I've experienced numbers of times, I've got recordings of it, is when the juvies are trying to learn to use infrasound, they're like the juvenile Bigfoot are like juvenile humans. Their voice eventually, it starts off at a higher pitch. Eventually their voice will break over into the adult range, but you'll hear, sometimes we'll be out and you'll hear something, if it's quiet enough, you'll hear something sort of but really, really low, real super low, but it'll fade in and out. And that's them trying to do real infrasound, and they can't quite get it. They can't they're it'll go into the infrasound range for a few seconds, but then it'll come back up in frequency where we can hear it. But and I have found, when that's happened on multiple occasions, I have found that there were juvies right there in close proximity. And
what about during sleep? I know, or actually, one time was awake. Donna and Billy and I've had this happen a couple of times. Like while when we had that sighting up on the at Talladega, and and then while we were asleep too, weird things in your head and stuff a couple of times. And is that? Do you think that's the ultrasound doing that also?
Well, I was going to talk about ultrasound here in a bit, but the infrasound, they'll come up and use it on us at night. When we're in supposedly asleep. I know. Well, I've got a good recording of that was out. We recorded out on the point there where all of us have been here on the farm, and my buddy Peck White had some drop boxes out around us, and it was me and Troy and his friend Steve, I think was the guy's name, and my little German female shepherd Zara. Were in a big old huge barn sized tent, and there was one of them sneaked up on us, and you could hear it sneaking up on us on the recording, because the recorder was out about 50, 60 feet away from the tent, and you can hear it, and it real quietly, stepping, but it was autumn, so the leaves were sort of crunchy, but you could hear it, if you listen real good to the recording, and with the volume turned up, you can hear it easing up on us. And then it gets up close to the tent and it starts using infrasound on us. But it being a juvie, it couldn't stay in the range. You heard a couple of times, you heard sort of a like that. And if you go back and look at it, the raw waveform, you can see that it was getting down in the infrasound range, but it couldn't maintain it. It got up above, into the area where we could hear, but we didn't know it was there. It didn't get our attention or wake us up or anything like that until Zara, my German Shepherd, started barking. He started barking at it, and then it took off running. Mm-hmm. And what's really cool about the recording is you can hear it run by the drop box, and it's in stereo. And if you play it, back through a, stereo speaker system like I've got here, you can hear it come from the right and, run by it and then it disappear off to the left. And it sounds like one of those old recordings about, train whistle going by, where it goes, like that, except it's going by. It's pretty cool.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Spencer.
I've got an answer.
Why do you think?
Hey, Spencer, turn your volume up just a little bit. We can't hardly hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. How about that? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's better, but yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't know what else to do for it.
That's good as long as you stay close to it.
Let me ask you a question. Whenever you're dealing with infrasound with known animals, if you think about elephants, whales, they use it to communicate. And right. You have large predators like tigers, for example, that will use it to kind of stun their prey.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Why do you think boogers use infrasound on people? Like in what you were talking about, if the people are asleep in their tents,
mm-hmm.
What would be the point of a booger? Just your opinion. Why do they use it on us? I think I've been zapped one time, and it was to get me out of the area that I was in because I was getting too close to them. So that makes sense. But like just getting zapped while you're in the tent,
right?
Why do you think that they do that?
Well, there was another. Let me back up just a little bit. Turkeys. Anybody that's a turkey hunter in here that's been close to a gobbler that's strutting and drumming knows that turkeys use infrasound because they can actually make the ground shake in about a 30-foot radius around them. Turkeys can. You wouldn't think that a bird could do that, but they do. But now back to your thing. I believe a lot of times they use infrasound on us to get us out of an area, mm-hmm. to discourage us, to try to turn us away from an area. But I believe also a lot of them that come up messing around our tents are juvies, and they're just messing with us. But I've got some recordings that where they're approaching our campsite from a distance, and they will be using little whoop, and a combination of little audible noises to keep track of each other and stuff. Like this particular one, you hear it, you can hear it. You have to listen real close, but you can hear when it's
mm-hmm.
off. You can hear whoop, like that, and then you'll hear well, I can't do it.
Yes.
My lips a little flat, a short flat whistle like that, and but when they get, and you can tell that they're moving closer, and when they get to a certain point, they quit doing that and they start doing little infrasound noises, little clicks or little, like that. But but it shows up on the recording if it was recorded in raw or wave format. Yeah. By the way, anybody that's trying to record infrasound, MP3 cuts out everything below 35 hertz, so you won't get any indication of infrasound at all. Even if you've got a standard microphone, always put your recorder, when you're doing any recording of Bigfoot, always put it in wave or raw format. Now, even though your microphone is not set up to record in the infrasound range, a lot of times the infrasound will cause, if it's got a light enough element in it, like one of these mylar elements on the upper frequency part of the mic, it'll cause the microphone to clip. Now, where'd I locked up. It'll cause the microphone to clip, and you can hear it. You can know that it's being exposed to infrasound by the clicking in the bumping of the microphone. And I built several infrasound mics back in the day, and they were very, very fragile. And at one point I spent about $1,400 on one from Audio Technica, and officially Audio Technica doesn't build them, but they were building them for me and for the lady that was recording the elephants. And I know I paid about $1,400 for the thing, and it didn't last very long. I didn't have a big research budget like she did. I wore the thing out a couple of 3 years, and anyhow, I don't know what the state of the art in infrasound microphones is today. Like I said, I haven't personally owned one in probably 20 years or more. But I've got a lot of good recordings where a regular microphone is clipping due to infrasound hitting it. But now getting into ultrasound, everybody says that when they are using infrasound, all the woods goes quiet, and sometimes it does. However, there is an issue with that. Some insects can't hear infrasound. They hear mostly up into the ultrasound area. That is the frequencies above 20,000 hertz. And we have multiple occasions been in places where there was a lot of insects and stuff like that around us, things that couldn't hear infrasound, but we would all of a sudden hear this, sometimes it hurts. It's this real high pitched squeal in our ears, and again it'll go up and down in frequency, and then the bugs and everything just cut off instantly. And so I believe that somehow they can generate also ultrasound to frequencies above 20,000 hertz. I know there's a lot of animals that can hear that. Dogs can hear it, and there's a tremendous amount of animals out there that can hear up in the ultrasound range. Also, ultrasound can be focused. Infrasound cannot be focused very well. It's very hard for infrasound, those really low frequencies, to be directed in a specific direction where most of the acoustic energy is going in a specific direction. Even if they have a very high decibel level, it dissipates fairly fast in the air because it's not a focused beam. Whereas ultrasound can be highly focused. Look at your tweeters. That's a good question there, Skidder Operator. Possibly some earplugs might help, or muffs or something. I don't know. But I do know this, that infrasound will blow right through that stuff. I mean, you wouldn't be seeing apparitions. You wouldn't be seeing apparitions, if it was just, what am I trying to say? You wouldn't see apparitions if earplugs and stuff like that were effective against them. I mean, I've had things happen to me, and I've seen things happen to other people that a dog, that any kind of earplugs or muffs or something like that would not have prevented. But I don't know about the dog whistle. I've used the dog whistle out there, Pyro, and I haven't had much luck with it, to tell you the truth. But I have not specifically used it to see if it'll if I could tune it up to a high enough frequency to make the bugs shut up. I haven't tried that, but that's a good question.
Yeah.
I might try that next time I'm out. I've got a dog whistle around here somewhere, and I don't know where it is. I thought maybe it's right here in the depth drawer, but it's not. It's probably in my glove box or the console of my truck. That's a good idea. But we have one time there was a pretty good sized group of us, and we were down at Greg's, and down at Greg House's place, and we were poking around down there in the south end of Bankhead, and we went down to a boat ramp near his man cave, and boy, they were tearing us up with ultrasound, and the bugs, would go dead quiet, and we were hearing this. I mean, it made all of us sort of a little bit disoriented, and it hurt my ears at times, because it was so intense. We couldn't hear it, but we felt the effects of it. Now, if anybody doubts the efficiency of ultrasound, go back and look at the news about what happened to the people that were working in the Cuban embassy back 5-6 years ago. It will actually cause brain damage if you're exposed to a focused beam of ultrasound.
Mm-hmm.
It'll permanently ruin your hearing. It can cause brain damage, nerve damage. It can cause a lot of bad effects. And there were people that worked in the embassy there in Havana. They were exposed to it over a long period of time that came away with quite a few permanent effects, detrimental effects from being exposed to it. And the thing about infrasound, ultrasound is, like I said, it can be focused, but what they were doing in Cuba was they were using what's called a dissonant ultrasound. They had a carrier frequency or a drone frequency. Anybody that's played a banjo or bagpipe or whatever knows what a drone frequency is. Mm-hmm. or a there are several other instruments that use not a zither. What is that? What's that old Appalachian instrument, Spencer, that my sister plays one of them? It's
harpsichord.
No, what?
Harpsichord.
No, it's a handheld. It's like
dulcimer.
Dulcimer, yeah.
Dulcimer. Right.
There's banjos, bagpipes. There's other instruments that have drone, a drone string or a drone. They'll have a drone frequency attached to
Was
them.
that the little vibration with the strings that comes like on the banjo and stuff? Is that what you're
Yeah,
talking about?
it's one that tunes separately from the others, and like when they blow up a bagpipe, there you'll always hear there's one like that's
It's
always the same.
It's
And-
an underlying
Right.
wavelength that carries through the whole thing.
Okay,
Right.
that's what, because they all have that little twang like thing. All of those kind of
Right.
do. I was wondering.
And dulcimers do too. Dulcimer has a drone string on
Yeah.
it. But anyway, so they'll have a drone frequency in the ultrasound range, but then they will be using a dissonant resonance. Then they will be using another frequency that runs above and below that, or either just up and down above it. But the two of them working together can cause some pretty wild effects. For instance, there's been research done on that, and they figured out that that's how the Israelites brought down the walls of Jericho. That dissonant ultrasound will actually tear apart crystalline structures, and rocks have crystalline structures.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw that when we were testing the thermal shielding on the space shuttle, those ceramic tile that are glued all over the outside of the space shuttle. That what happened was we were doing a wide range frequency exposure up in the 165 decibel and above energy level. And by the way, that's fatal to humans. You get much above 135 decibels and you can kill people.
Yeah.
But
Really?
like I said, we were running up above 165 decibels. All right, to get into the acoustic chamber, you had to step up about an 18-inch step. And with all the stuff that we had going on in there, the technicians were having to lift a big, heavy Craftsman roll around tool chest up there, and we had to roll it up to the test specimens. And they got tired of doing it, so they asked if they could just leave it in there. And they said, well, you better not, that's some high energy levels. And, steel has a crystalline, has a crystalline structure or a lattice to it. And especially cold rolled steel that those tool chests are made out of, plus forged steel that the tools themselves are made out of, and that they didn't recommend it, but they said, well, and the guy that owned the tool chest said, well, dadgummit, we're tired of picking this thing up, busting our backs. Let's just leave it in there and just see what happens. Okay, we'll leave it in there for one run. So they started off the run, and right before the end of the run was, and I think the exposure was like maybe 2 minutes or a little bit longer. I don't remember the exact time, but it was however long it takes the shuttle from takeoff till the solid rocket boosters quit. And it was like 90 seconds like roughly 90 seconds, but then we'd run it a little bit longer, for safety. I think the exposure was about 2 minutes. Anyway, they got to looking back at some of what they did. They went in there after that run, and there where the toolbox had been sitting was just a pile of torn up metal. I mean, there was hardly any piece of that big roll around chest much bigger than a silver dollar. It had just been ripped apart by the acoustic energy. The wrenches and the sockets and all that kind of stuff and screwdrivers and everything were still laying there, but you could pick them up and just tap them on something and they'd fall apart.
Mm.
And so needless to say, the technician was rather upset, but it tore his toolbox all to pieces. And they went back and got to looking at some of the camera footage from inside inside the acoustic chamber, and if you look real careful, you can see a few little pieces of the toolbox skittering across the floor during the test. But people have no idea how strong, focused, high decibel acoustic energy actually is. But it just, to see what it did to those Craftsman tools, and he had some Snap-on stuff in there too. It wasn't just a brand of tools. It was just everything that was in there was just pretty much destroyed because it wasn't designed for it.
Yeah.
Kumbo,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No.
Skinner brought up, I wanted to do this before I forgot it. He brought up shofar dissonance. Do you think that's part of the shofar? Is there?
That's how the Israelites did it. They used 4 different types of shofars. They used goat horn. They used sheep horn. They used ibex horn, and they used that's the ibex. Those 3, and then they used kudu horn. They used for sure those 4 types of horns, and each one of them has a different acoustic signature. And they couldn't reach the kind of volumes that you could, with a bunch of amps and speakers and stuff. That's why they marched around and around and around it for like 7 days, blowing it almost constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you though that some of those, especially the ibex and the kudu horn, can reach some frequencies that is absolutely ungodly ear piercing. And it's interesting if you go back and look at find an old Bible from back in the 1600s, 1700s. There's a very few out there that were printed in the very early 1800s. But go back, start looking in the 1500s up through the very early 1800s, and look up pictures and find the illustrations in some of those old Bibles that shows the marching around the wall, the city of Jericho, and the walls coming down, and look at what the different groups, what kind of a shofar the different groups are using. The Israelites used sheep horn and goat horn. The angels, and only the angels, used the kudu horn shofar. And I don't remember which ones use the ibex horns, but if you study what they look like, it's easy to tell even in the old illustrations. And but the combination of those 4 different types of shofars and them just doing it constantly broke down the crystalline structure in the walls of Jericho, of the stones or the blocks that was used to build the walls of Jericho, and that's what caused them to collapse. Is all of that acoustic energy, those dissonant frequencies, or dissonant, like somebody said, dissonant resonance. You can't. It's astounding what resonant frequencies can do to different types of material. Utterly astounding. If you don't know what a resonant frequency is, you don't see so much of this nowadays. But used to, when I was a kid, when you'd start off down the road, you look at the radio antenna on your car, and you start off with that antenna would be doing like this. And then as you increase speed, it would start to do like an S curve, And as you increase the speed more, it would have little squiggles in it. And the faster you got, the more little squiggles it had in it. And those squiggles and the stuff, and even the waving back and forth like that, those are different resonant frequencies of that antenna. You can do the same thing with a fishing pole sometimes, but when it's just doing like it's doing like this, that's the base resonant frequency. And then the next one where it's doing like sort of being in S's, that's the second resonant frequency. And you have one of the things we learned in the lab is that you can have damage occurring to materials all the way up through the 11th and the 11th, 13th, and all the way up to like the 13th resonance point. And it's, you can get online and look that and pull up stuff on YouTube, and you can watch them doing things to exposing different materials to variable frequency sound waves or vibration, and you can see how it deflects and what happens to the things. And the standing wave, Skidder, is the standing wave is sort of like the drone frequency.
Right.
Yeah, that's a part of it.
Okay.
The stuff that does so much damage to human hearing is you'll have a standing wave or a standing wave frequency or a drone frequency, and then you'll have another frequency that runs with it or close to it that and that's what really messes people up. And
I got a question on that right there. If because of some of us being out and stuff, is there any way to stop it? How do you stop it if it's hitting you?
I don't know. I don't think there's any way, unless you just got to get away from it. You have to get away from it. Although now, ultrasound is much easier to get away from than infrasound. Infrasound blows right through stuff, through solid walls and stuff like that. Whereas ultrasound can be stopped by if you get behind a tree or something like that, or you could get into your car and get the windows up. That can attenuate it a lot. Like you said, leave.
Yeah.
Leave. Or as I often say, open up a can of gone.
There you go. Do you think they can hit like certain people, the infrared and the ultrasound? Do you think they can hit like just certain people? Like say if there's us four out there in the woods, could they just like hit just me and y'all not feel it? Or do you think it would be all of us?
They can't do if they're using infrasound, the lower frequency, below 20 hertz, they're going to get everybody because you can't aim it.
Right.
The ultrasound, yes, they can hit one person. Yeah, they can. It can be aimed. Now, whether they can do it or not, I don't know. But you can certainly do it. You can demonstrate that. Take a tweeter out of a stereo speaker, stick it in one end of a piece of PVC pipe or just any kind of a pipe, and turn it up where making a really high thing.
Oh yeah.
Somebody. Yeah. You can tear them up.
I figured that, but we had that question, so yeah.
Yes, do not do this stuff without a parent watching you.
I can neither confirm nor deny any personal experience with that.
Only under adult supervision.
Well, there's a lot of adults out there that need supervision.
Yes, that's true.
They'll be the ones that get in trouble. Go ahead, Spencer.
No,
Yeah.
I was saying I'm one of the ones that needs adult supervision.
Yeah.
This is an interesting conversation. I got to get off here. But before I go, one thing. Hey, Kumbo, whenever you were messing with people and you saw the negative effect of these frequencies, like on a human being, did you ever mess with anything that caused positive effects on a human being? You have any reason to believe that?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. If they stand there and pee their pants and run off to the bathroom and we didn't like them, that's a positive effect.
That's not what I meant.
That's a real positive effect.
Yeah, y'all have a good show.
No, I've
Thank
never.
you, Spencer.
Thanks,
I can't-
Spencer.
Bye.
I can't think of a positive effect of it, really.
I think he's thinking maybe medical or something.
There may be some medical application to it. I don't know. I don't know. In fact, I think there is. Yeah, I see what Pyro's talking
You
about.
know we got to try this, Donna.
Oh yeah, yes, ma'am.
But I think I have seen something where they were using. Oh, I know where they use ultrasound, and it to a positive effect. They use it to bust kidney stones.
Yeah.
Yep.
There you
Hospitals.
go. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
Yep.
positive effect.
And they do they'll do these little blasts of ultrasound, and it'll bust up kidney stones. I got a
Yep.
brother that's had that done a couple of times on him. I took him to the doctor one time, and they did that to him, and he said his description. He said, "Holy crap!" He said, "I feel like a mule just kicked me, but hey, it busted it up." You know?
Jim had it done too.
Yeah.
He had one he couldn't pass.
I don't know if they could do it with gallstones or what else, but yeah, the ultrasonic for kidney stones.
Yeah,
That's
right,
correct.
Stacey.
And because they can put them down in a tub of water. And no, I never did shoot any monkeys into space. I shot my sister's white mouse into space.
Uh-oh.
And I had the 3 largest engines that would fit into that rocket, and shot it up a couple of thousand feet, and it came floating down on a parachute, and we got it, and the poor old mouse's eyeballs were popped out. And I'm like, oh no! And I just licked my finger, and I just popped them back in, and
So it lived. It lived through it.
yeah, it lived through it. It was a tough
wow.
old mouse. Her name was Divinity because she was white, like Divinity candy.
Uh-huh.
And my sister's still threatening to whoop me over that. Now, the shooting the monkeys into space was way before my time. I didn't come on to the aerospace scene until 1980. And so all that, shooting the monkeys into space were all done, I think, in the late 50s and early 60s. And I do feel bad about doing that to that mouse. I had no idea. That's the only time I ever did. I had no idea that it would have done that to that mouse.
If it was anything but a rat or a mouse, I'd have said, "Don't do that." But shoot them all up there. I hate them. I have a terrible phobia of mice and rats.
Huh.
I can.
You probably like snakes then, don't you?
I don't mind snakes, but
Yeah.
rats, it's a phobia. I'll tackle the biggest animal you got as long as it ain't a mouse or a rat.
Huh.
It's a phobia, and I hate it, but it's nothing, and it's real hard to get past those.
Yeah. It's like I hate centipedes.
Well, mine's high, so unless somebody's going to physically pick me up and put me somewhere, I don't have to worry about it.
What did I say? I say Spencer. And Stace answered Spencer. Yes, they do. What was the question? Anyway.
Oh, he did this. Thank you, Spencer. We appreciate you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got you. Yeah. But as far as any other helpful benefits of ultrasound, I can't think of any right off the top of my head, but I know there's got to be some more out there. There's so many weird things that they do. Stace, my wife and I were out walking around down the hill here on the other side of the cornfield. Back, it was Friday or Saturday, and a big old rat snake about, I don't know, I didn't pick it up and measure it, but it was about, my wife said it was 17 feet long. I would say that it was probably about maybe 4.5, possibly 5, crawled up out of a groundhog hole or a armadillo hole. I don't know which one. And she screamed real loud, and I came running over there, and it had crawled up, and all of it was out of the hole. And I walked up, I said, "Come over here and pet this thing." She hates snakes with a passion. She hates them. And I wasn't going to let her kill it. But anyway, it was a real pretty big old gray rat snake. And I said, "Come over here and pet it." And I just squatted down beside it and started stroking it and petting it, and rubbing its head and everything. It let me do it. It didn't try to bite me or anything. But big thing is you just got to, get that, I don't know, I call it the zen of hunting or whatever. You got to turn off that predatory aura and just don't show any fear and everything. But okay, here we go. Real-time imaging, no radiation. Yeah, as a matter of fact, echocardiogram is ultrasonic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, echocardiograms, that's ultrasonic. And so there's a number of things out there that use it for.
Thank you for that information. Everybody mostly knew it, but we just wasn't thinking it.
Yeah. But and then the ultrasound for babies. And
yeah, you're right, Pyro.
If they'd have had that back before I was born, they'd have probably thrown me away or something. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't think so.
But yeah, there are uses for ultrasound. Of course, depth finders, and on fishing boats, that's all ultrasonic.
Yeah, submarines
come through the water. Yeah, and what's that called? Not sonar. Yeah, sonar. Sonar is ultrasonic.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, it's shown up in a few movies and stuff. The sonar that they use can be deadly to swimmers and stuff up close.
Yes.
And the scuba divers and SEAL teams and stuff like that. Yeah. And we used to use of course there's ultrasonic cleaners are used all the time for cleaning jewelry and car part, engine parts and brass, that you reload ammo with. And I mean, ultrasonic cleaners are used, terrifically. You can go down to Harbor Freight and buy 2 or 3 different kinds of ultrasonic cleaners. If you want to know what it does, it just get you a good ultrasonic cleaner, get it going, and stick your finger down in it and see how that feels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you have any big trees crashed down around you, Kumbo, without any downed trees?
Well, I've had, I can't even count how many times that's happened. And, big limbs snapped off. And the loudest one I ever heard was out in Oklahoma. There, right off of Lake Texoma, on the Texas Oklahoma border.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounded like they shoved down the largest sequoia or redwood tree out in the world. It sounded like a tree that was 25 feet in diameter and 300 and something feet tall was shoved down near us. And you could hear it cracking for about 5 seconds before it finally fell. And holy moly! And it was a perfectly still night. Wow. And we've had tree crashes around us many, many, many times. And when there was no wind, no nothing. And we've had them shove down trees while we were in areas where there was one way in, one way out, and they try to trap us in there. They've done that to us many times.
Wow.
Yeah. And
I've been afraid they were going to 2 or 3 times because we were way back in the middle of nowhere and we got them stirred up. And I'm like, we got to go now. There was ice about that thick. And it was like 20 degrees, and me and Misty, and I'm telling you, we're a long ways from anybody on a mountain road. And I said, we got to go. If they push a tree down, we're in trouble.
Yeah. Well, he's talking about without a tree.
Yeah, without a tree coming down.
Well, I've heard the crashes before, and then gone back looking for the tree and didn't find it.
Right.
Yeah, I've had that happen before, and so I guess I'll tell her that, Stacy.
Yeah,
But yeah,
bring it up.
I've heard that several times, and then gone looking for the tree and couldn't find it.
Right.
But I've also had I've heard big, huge limbs crack and break, and gone back looking for them and didn't find them either.
Mm-hmm.
I witnessed about, about 40, 50 yards from where I'm sitting right now. I witnessed one, a big alpha, 10 plus feet tall, hit a limb on a big oak tree that's right by our old tack room, and he cracked it. I mean, it snapped, sounded like a gun firing. He cracked it. He didn't rip it plumb off the tree, but he hit it hard enough that it cracked it.
Right.
And the limb is still there. It didn't ever break off the tree.
Yeah. Did you see a crack in it? Did you actually see a crack in it, or just heard it?
I saw a crack in the bark.
Oh, okay.
I think, but that was let's see, that's 46 years ago, so I don't remember all the details.
Right. Of course. Any crazy lights, not orbs, in heavy cryptid areas?
Yeah.
So you've seen orbs too? I figured you had, but I didn't remember if I'd ever heard you talk about them.
Yeah,
This is crazy lights, but not orbs, is what Stacy's asking.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I've seen crazy lights. The best ones I ever saw was up in the Bennington Triangle.
Mm-hmm.
Up in I can't remember if that's New Hampshire or Vermont, but it's in the town up there called Bennington. And we had been up there. I had, by myself. The guy that was going to go with me chickened out. But I was up there one night rooting around, and there's a mountain up there that's part of the Bennington Triangle, and we had been up towards further to the north into Vermont, where what they call the Old Man of the Mountain or something like that. That big rock formation that was up there.
Mm-hmm.
We'd been up in that area where they had several sightings, and hadn't seen, and I didn't find any sign whatsoever, none, zilch, totally struck out. And in fact, that old thing, the Old Man of the Mountain, I think his nose or part of his face fell off or something about 10 years ago. But anyway, I was on my way back, and something caught. I was headed south, and I caught something out of the corner of my eye. I looked, and up on top of this mountain, there were all these super bright lights
mm-hmm. shooting
up in the air. And it reminded me of, if anybody's ever been out, if anybody's been out at night when somebody's welding outside and
mm-hmm.
seen how it lights up the sky.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like, but more powerful. But the beams were more focused, and there were clear ones and there were red ones, and I don't remember now. The ones that I saw the best were clear and red, and I think there might have been maybe a yellow one or a green one or something, but it was mostly clear, just flashes of intense bright white and really intense red that just would shoot up or shooting up into the air, not necessarily straight up, but just were shooting out. And
right.
I stopped and pulled over and watched it for a bit. And I got out my maps trying to figure out if I could find a way to get up there. And the maps I had back then weren't all that good. Nothing like what you can get now. And this is before cell phone days and Google navigation and all that. So never did figure out how to get up there exactly. And I never did get a chance to go back up there to look for a way to get up there. So I was working at Seabrook Nuclear Plant then, which is on the coast of the extreme southeastern coast of New Hampshire, about 40 miles north of Boston, or 40 minutes. anyway.
Do you think they could be connected to the lights? I mean, the way Stacy's talking here, same
got
thing
no
happened.
I got no idea. I've never seen Bigfoot and then had a UFO sighting at the same time.
Right.
But I can tell you that there are UFOs out there, absolutely positively.
Yeah,
And,
I saw
Oh,
one
yeah.
sitting on top of our house. I know they are.
yeah, and
Now, was the lights coming from the ground or
from the ground up,
from the ground up? Okay.
right off the top of the mountain.
Right. Okay.
And and I've seen other weird things. And
Well, tell us about them.
That's what that's what one of my questions was on here. Have you seen other weird things besides Sasquatch?
we had three different kind of on our property up in Missouri. We had three different kind of orbs, and you know, the first time my wife came in telling me about it, I'm thinking, yeah. And she thought that it was, well, actually she thought that it was somebody walking across our property carrying a lantern or a flashlight or something.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time I got there, it was gone. I was in the middle of doing something. Then a day or two later, she saw it again. And this time I got there, I got my butt up, and I got up here fast enough. I saw it. And I grabbed a light and a gun, and I took off out of the house and ran down, had to run across the pond dam and up the hill. And it was going down an old logging road. And I was trying to run and, catch up with it. And it got out in front of me, and all of a sudden it just disappeared. I was probably 50 yards from it, maybe 40 yards, and it just disappeared. And so I started watching for it a whole lot better and more often. Mm-hmm. And I found out we had two different kinds. We had one that looked like about the size of a softball, and it was super, super bright white, just, like these new headlights on cars. Mm-hmm. Wasn't that bright, but it was a very, very white color. Then there was another one that was about the size of a soccer ball, and it was sort of a yellowish light. It looked like first several times I saw it, I thought it was somebody carrying one of those old Coleman lanterns through the woods. Mm-hmm. You know how they got a yellowish light, the old gas lanterns, not the one that used the LP canisters, but the old kind that you put the white gas in. You had to sit there and pump, and then light it off. That's what it looked like. Was it one of those old Coleman gas lanterns? Mm-hmm. We chased them, me and some young kids that worked for me. We chased them several times. I got up close to them, and once when we'd get close to them, they would just blink off all of a sudden. They just turn off. The larger one, we got close enough to it a couple of times that we could hear it made sort of a sizzling, faint sizzling sound, like almost like frying bacon, but quieter. Mm-hmm. The other one that was about the size of a softball was it was totally silent. And then the wife had been talking about this, and I finally saw them. We had red lightning bugs, except that's what we thought they were lightning bugs. Then we noticed, first thing noticed that they were red. I'd never seen or heard of red lightning bugs. For you non-Southerners, lightning bugs are what y'all call fireflies. But we had red lightning bugs, same size as normal lightning bugs, but they were red. But the weird thing was they would click on, and they'd go through the woods for about, some of them go 100 yards through the woods before they'd ever turn off. And sometimes there'd be one come on and it'd start moving off, and then another would come on and it'd follow it, for 50, 60, 70 yards. And we used to see those. And so, like I said, we had those. I didn't believe in all these orbs and everything until I lived on that property. And the weird thing, there were on our property, on over the hill, over in the next holler, or it was a creek bed actually, next creek bed, or it was a deep hollow with a creek that went through it, and it was a permanent creek. There were a couple of old wildcat coal mines in there. That was coal mines where just whoever lived in the area would go down there and dig coal out of the side of the hill. And so there were old logging roads and stuff in there, and old wagon roads where they'd haul the coal out.
Mm-hmm.
And the white one and the yellowish one always ran either north or south along one of those wagon roads or logging roads. I'm not sure which one it was. But the red ones, the small red ones, always ran along the side of the. They were further down the hill, and they pretty much paralleled the little creek that ran out of our. We had a pond there. They'd run along beside our pond, and then down through the hollow below the pond, and it was weird. Flash hadn't back up soft. Something about.
I was fixing to ask him about it. How long ago was that?
Blue lights that looked like a laser hitting you in the eyes on the Cumberland Plateau. Wow.
When did that? Was that the history, or is that something recent, or what, Pyro?
Huh.
Speak to us, Pyro.
He may not.
Huh.
A BMO says that they've seen those. Most fireflies glow yellow or green. Some rare species or chemically altered fireflies can emit a red or amber light.
Yeah, but the thing about it is they don't turn on and stay on for 100 yards.
Right. Usually they blink a lot quicker, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
3 weeks ago, he said saw several over the week.
Huh. Let me see here. Somebody just sent me a text. Let me see what it is. Oh, okay. Okay. One from my brother. But I know somebody flew a drone back before we were married over my wife's place and was flying around and shining a red laser in through her windows and stuff. And we went after that thing with a shotgun. If I could have found who was flying it that'd have been a butt whooping issue.
Yeah.
I don't like that at all. But it happened one evening. It did about 3 times. We're shining that laser in through the window.
You were telling us about that the last time we were down there, because that fire started, and somebody had a fire out through there, and you was telling us about that.
Yeah, that's the only time that's ever happened. I think I raised enough heck in the neighborhood after that whoever was doing it quit it. But I wasn't the only one that had seen it.
Yeah. Pyro, good Lord. I'm sorry, Kimbo. Let me ask you this. Yeah. Is there, in the whole time from the time you were 2-3 years old, have you ever felt unsafe, scared, or threatened by those at your place?
By what? The boogers?
Yes.
Well, when I was taking a nap on top of the bluff there by the river that time, when I was squirrel hunting, and decided to lay down on the carpet moss and take a nap about 10 o'clock in the morning, and I woke up and there was a full-grown female standing there looking at me. Yeah, I was real scared. I strongly considered throwing myself off that bluff. Now, it was water below. I would have landed in about 40, 50 feet of water, and the bluff was only about 40 feet tall, 40, 45 feet. And I've jumped off a lot higher bluffs than that, here river when I was a kid. And anyway, I didn't feel threatened. As a matter of fact, she had the most absolutely emotionless looking face I've ever seen. I couldn't tell if she was mad, glad, sad, if she was fixing to hug me or rip my arms out. I have no idea. But she just stood there and looked at me. I laid there on the ground and had my 22 rifle beside me. Mm-hmm. She just stood there, looking like this down at me, and I was laying there looking at her, and it went on for about 2 minutes, and then finally she never twitched an eye, a corner of her mouth, nothing. Yeah. I mean, just totally 100% emotionless.
Wow.
And finally she just turned and just went walking off down the hill. Now, after that is when I felt threatened. I knew I was threatened. I knew that the alpha was there close and was watching me, but I couldn't see him. And that was the first time I ever made a real effort to try to talk to him. And I just said, I know you're out there. I know you're watching me. I know you're not happy that I'm here. I said, but I'm not here to bother you or hurt you. I mean you no harm. I have a rifle with me. I have a gun with me. If you will let me get up and not hurt me, I will walk out of here the quickest, shortest way possible, and I will not be back.
Right.
That was in 1978 or 79. And do you know that I didn't go back in there until about 2 years ago?
Really?
I'm dead serious. Yeah.
So it really affected you, didn't it?
Oh, yes, it did.
Yeah.
I knew, but when I got up, I kept my head down and I kept the rifle in my hand with the barrel pointed at the ground, pointed down the whole time. And I walked the straightest, shortest way out of those woods. And
wow,
I got out of there.
Is that the worst one or the only one that's really made you feel that way?
No, I've had other times. That one that when I was standing there taking a leak and it walked up behind me and literally breathed down my neck, that scared the bejeebers out of me. And that's when I whirled around and I hit him with my shoulder, my left shoulder, and my left elbow. I hit him in the lower chest in the gut. Hit him, right about the solar plexus with my shoulder, and probably right below his belly button with my elbow. And he bared his teeth and growled at me, and I started speaking, as my buddy Jimmy Osmer would say, I started speaking in unknown tongues. And,
I would have too.
And I took off running in this direction, and the booger took off running in that direction, and we ran into each other again.
Oh, wow.
And there was more growling and growling at me, and there was more unknown tongues out of me, and we both made a fast exit out of the area.
So you were both trying to get away from each other, pretty much.
Exactly. But it was in the dark, and I had walked around to see there was a wild plum thicket, and I was seeing if the plums were ripe yet, and if they'd been in there and the plums weren't, they were still green, and I had to have some relief, so I stopped to take care of business, and that son of a gun walked up behind me. And there was a lot of stuff happened on that outing. That's a whole lot of stuff.
Right.
But
Sherry saw something whenever we was there on the point. Did she tell you about something that was climbing up the tree?
I asked him a question about how they climb because that's the first time I've seen, but I'm going to talk to him about it because
Yeah.
what it was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. I need to kind of talk to you about it offline.
Back to if I've ever felt I was in danger, yeah, I've felt I've been in danger many times. And
What's the best thing to do if you get in that situation? How to handle it, Kumbo? Because a lot of us have kind of been close to that.
get out of there.
Just leave.
Or talk to it.
Yeah.
They understand most of what we say. I'm 100% convinced of that.
And try to stay calm.
Yeah, try to stay calm. Don't look them in the eye, but I sort of look at their feet or something like that, or or I'll keep my head down. But I'll just tell them I don't mean you any harm. I'm sorry for being invading your territory, and I'm gonna leave. And but I've also had conversations with them. They've gotten one of my dogs. They got one of my female German Shepherds and tore her up right there in the yard, and they left about a baseball sized chunk of meat with the hair and the hide still attached, sitting there, and got the rest of her. And I had to talk with them. I that particular troop right there, and they had gotten at least two of my neighbor's dogs, and I told them if they bothered my dogs anymore or hurt any of my dogs anymore, that we were going to have war.
Right.
And I meant it.
Oh, yeah.
And I told him, I said, I haven't shot a gun around here at all. And I said, but if you hurt any more of my dogs, it's going to be war. And they got to bother me so much the first place I lived down in Mississippi that this was that's the story you heard me tell, where that one was screaming out there in the backyard when I was playing the siren call on my surround sound system. Back in the old Pal Talk days. But those got to bothering me and messing with my dogs and stuff. And they got they killed two of my neighbor's dogs, and they tried to get Bo, and I just stepped out on the back deck, and I ripped off 15 rounds out through the pine thicket back there, but shooting high enough that I knew I wouldn't hit any of them. And I talked to those and told them, you hurt one of my dogs and it's going to be war.
Right.
And they understand that, and they left them alone, but they kept killing other dogs in the neighborhood. But I'll answer your question, Patrick, here in a bit. But
yeah, I'm sorry.
I've had other run-ins with them and stuff, and like right here, when I first moved back here onto the farm in 22, I caught two juvies out playing with Joe, my male shepherd, just right here right in the edge of the yard, and there was one on one side of him and one on the other side, and I went out to get him in, and bring him in for the night, and flipped on a spotlight, and it was like you guys used to play freeze tag, where you get in a dark room and you click on the light and everybody's freezing.
Yeah.
Well, I clicked the light on, and there's these two juvie boogers out there, and they're like, it was Joe standing there, wagging and I said, Joe, get over here. And the one that was closest to me, he wasn't but about maybe 40 feet, 30, 40 feet away, and he dove off head first in our old pit silo, and it was this right over there, and The other one that was a little bit further away, he took off running down the other side of the fence row, and that I knew that one was still in the pit silo because I didn't see him or hear him come out. And I just told him, I said, you hurt my dog. I said, it's going to be war. I said, you hurt my dog, I'm going to hurt you.
Right.
And I said, don't hurt my dogs. And I've had a couple of other conversations with him. And you've heard us talk about old Odin, the one-eyed one, the one that was blind in one eye. I've caught him up here several times and he always had juvies with him. And I've had 2 or 3 conversations with him, not conversations. I said, look, you can come and go up here all you want. You can get in the barn, anything is in there. You can lay up in the barn and you get out of the rain and the weather. I don't care. Whatever, you can steal the seed out of the bird feeder, whatever, And I said, but don't hurt my dog.
There you go.
I said, we'll get along fine if you don't hurt my dogs. They tried to catch old Joe back on the point one time. Me and Pat Rance and Jimmy Osmer were camped back there, and 3 of them came up, and 2 of them got over behind my camper, and one got right down the hill below Pat's, and he belly crawled up behind some couple of logs that were laying there and popped his head up where Joe could see him, and Joe, barked and took off. He wasn't booger savvy then. Yeah. He took off chasing him, and as soon as he took off after that one, and it took off down the hill, the other 2 ran in behind him, and they got him in that death spiral.
Oh.
Yeah, and Joe knew he was had, and he started squalling his head off. I mean, he was running as fast as he could, but he was going, like that. Jimmy and Pat and I were screaming our heads off, and we jumped up, and Jimmy and I took off down the hill, but they were intent on catching Joe. They were going to catch him and kill him and tote him off. And I just happened to remember that I had my remote for my truck in my pocket. I yanked it out and I hit the horn button, and that broke their concentration just enough that Joe was able to get away.
Right. Yeah.
But, but as far as being scared and stuff of them, they've scared me many times.
Okay.
And usually, when it gets to a point, I just leave. Yeah. We thought we were safe out on a causeway one time at a place down there on the Red River, and there was, I think, 6 of us, and we'd called them up, and that's where they pushed down that tree. Unbelievable how loud it was. I mean, the crash it made when it hit the ground was unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And over a period of time, they got all around us, and they were off in the water. Well, we thought we were safe where we were, that the water was pretty shallow where that causeway went across that little inlet. And suddenly we saw some of them going out and going underwater. And we watched 2 or 3 do that. And then we realized that where we were standing, where we were parked right in the middle of the causeway, there were big culverts that went underneath it. And the water was about 8-9 feet deep right there, at least. And we realized that they could swim up there and just reach up and snatch any one of us they wanted off the causeway. Mm. And when I remember there was me and 2 other guys standing there, and somebody shined a spotlight down in the water. We're like, oh crap, this was deep. And there they are right over there getting in the water and going underwater, disappearing. We better get our butts out of here right now. And that's what we did.
That's really the only fear that I have. Donna and I kayak a lot. Mm-hmm. And that's the only time I ever really worry about encountering one.
Well, you need to talk to Kurt Moser about Salyer Lake out in Oklahoma. There's been people snatched out of canoes and canoes turned over, and the people never found, and kayaks and stuff like that. And we've got reports in the Tennessee River right here, a mile from where I'm sitting. Mm-hmm. People out there fishing, catfishing and stuff, and see one swim by underwater. You know, we watched one down there in the Red River one time. Vicky Fulcher went down there and was going down there to see it. Somebody's messing around with thermal, and it came up out of the water up on a big slab of rocks. And they said, "Oh my gosh, there's a booger down there." And Vicky, "I want to see it." And she goes running down there, you know, to see it. And it, when she came around some trees there, it just dove off in the water. Well, we started watching. That son of a gun, there was an inlet right there by us that was 200 yards across it. That son of a gun swam all the way to the other side and never rippled the water. The water was smooth as glass. It went all the way 200 yards to the other side before it came up out of the water.
Well, see, that's what freaks me out whenever we're kayaking. We get these big black spots up and under our kayak. And I told Sherry, I said, it gives me the heebie-jeebies.
You know, that's my really the only thing I ever worry about doing this is on the water.
Yeah.
But
well,
I mean, we are prepared for most things. Let me put it that way. If we just have time to grab it before we go under.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
you know,
you need to talk to Kurt Moser. And there's been other folks that you and I know that have gotten pictures of not only Bigfoot, but also dogmen sitting on logs and sitting on the edges of the water. And I've seen them in the water several times. I mean,
I'd like to see those pictures.
There are many sighting reports of people seeing them in the water, and you know, and even seeing them fishing in the water. Yeah. And you know, right here on the farm, back on the back of the farm, you'll find, you know, up on the hillsides above the river, you'll find a tree where the ground is sort of worn smooth underneath it, and there'll be a big old pile of fish bones here and a pile of fish skins and scales and stuff next to it, and or either a big pile of mussel shells or something there.
Do you think they think of us like food?
I think, well, yeah, they've
because they're meat eaters.
A lot of people, but they normally don't. It's the ones. It's just like the man-eating lions and tigers and cougars and jaguars and stuff like that. They don't do that. They don't eat us unless they can't get to their normal prey.
Right.
If they've been hit or hurt, or they're sick, or they're mad at us, somebody's hurt them and they decide to get revenge. There's a number of reasons why they would start, start eating us,
right.
Yeah.
Predating, or whatever they call it. They, becoming a predator on humans.
Right.
They could, like I said, they could just be having a bad day. They have a bad tooth, or they're old and they can't run down and catch a deer anymore, or a hog. So, humans are slow and easy prey.
That's what I feel too.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to find some pictures I was going to put up. Kubo, tell everybody about your cave down there. A lot of people may not, know that you have that, or if you want to. And I thought that was really interesting. We got to see that the last time.
Well, we got a cave here on the farm that's it's a maternity cave for two different kinds of bats. One of them's a little brown bat, and one of them's a gray bat, and one of them's endangered. So they come down here a couple times a year, and they set up these strobes and stuff like that, and the instruments, and they count the number of bats coming and going out of the caves, and they are able to photograph them to see what species they are. And they talked my dad into letting them put a fence around. They got down there, and now this is true because I've seen it. They found evidence where kids have been going in the cave and shooting at the bats with Roman candles and bottle rockets and stuff, and down in the cave. Now that's true because I've seen the old the bottle rocket, worn out bottle rockets and the spent Roman candles down there myself with my own eyes. So they talked my dad in, since these bats were endangered, to putting a fence around the cave to keep kids out. So that's what they did. All right, they finally got and it's a heavy duty. It's like 9 gauge, cyclone fencing, chain link fencing, which is very heavy. It's a lot stouter than what you normally put around your backyard or whatever. So they put this fence up, and they asked my dad. They wanted him to be able to get in there if he needed to. They kept the key. They got a lock, and my dad got a key and they got a key, and they asked my dad to go put the lock on the gate. And so my dad went down there the next morning. All they had done to the gate was just close it and then put the little latch down. So my dad goes down there the next morning, and the fence had been ripped up from the ground up, and a couple of posts on either side, or at least one post on either side, had been yanked up out of the ground. So it was obvious that they we couldn't even budge the fence. So it was obvious that something big and strong had been locked into the cave. They came up out of the cave sometime during the night or early that morning before my dad got down there and wanted out, and they didn't know how to work the gate, so they just ripped the fence up. Mm-hmm. So we took some pictures and stuff. Her daddy took some pictures and call the BANT people and with the government and told them what was going on. So they came back, and they took up the whole fence, and they dug a foot deep trench around the whole thing. And this time they set the posts in concrete, and the fence, the bottom foot of the fence was in concrete. And then they put kickers up on top of the chain link fence. And they put heavier duty bars at the top and the bottom of the fence, to support the fence. And they put these angled kickers that each one of them had like 4 strands of barbed wire, like what you'd see around a prison or something, or any place they want to keep people out. Mm-hmm. They put those all around. And again, when they got all done, they said, "Well, could you go down there and put the lock on the fence, on the gate?" Yes, sir. So Daddy went down there the next morning. This time the fence was ripped down from the top. So Daddy called me and told me about it. I'm like, "You got to be kidding." He said, "Nope." He said, "Come on out here. I want you to see it." And so I called up a friend of mine who, back at that time I was a porker. I weighed up around 350 pounds, and I'm about 230 now. But anyway, so I called this friend of mine, and he was also a porker. He was a little bit heavier than me. So between the two of us, we weighed a little over 700 pounds. Mm-hmm. So we go out there, and we go down there, and sure enough, there's a big section of fence. Just somebody obviously just grabbed a hold of it and just yanked it down. Mm-hmm. Now this is on such a heavy hillside, you can't get machinery and stuff down there.
Yeah, we went down there. Yeah. You took us down there.
It's so steep, it's hard to get good footing on it.
Yeah.
And so we got over there to the section of where the fence was undisturbed, and the two of us jumped up there, and we grabbed a hold of that top bar, and we were side by side, and we started in synchrony with each other, started jerking and jerking and jerking, and with our whole weight against it, trying to see if we could pull that fence down like that. We couldn't budge it. 700 pounds of lard butt rednecks could not budge that fence. Mm. Now, the alpha here that we had during that time, he was about 10 foot. I'd say if he'd have straightened up, he'd have been pushing 11 feet probably. But most of the time, just standing there, he was right at around 10 feet. I've seen him walk under limbs. I've had him up against the side of the barn, seen him walking past the barn. I've seen him enough that I know real good what size he was.
Right.
He's about 4.5 feet wide across the shoulders. He's about 3 feet thick through the chest, believe it or not. his legs are as big as my waist or bigger. I mean, big old boy.
Massive. Yeah, massive.
Now, this is coming from somebody, not just me, but the folks that work out here, and this was and my dad and, people that have been in the cattle business most of their life. That dude weighed 1,600 pounds if he weighed an ounce. I'm talking about, people don't realize how big these things can get. This guy was massive. And like I said, our 700, mine and the other guy, our 700 pounds couldn't budge that fence, but I can see how that 1,600 pounder could just, mash it down or rip it up out of the ground.
Oh, yeah.
So after that happened, we just left it alone. And people started, the word sort of got out, and you don't ever see anybody back there anymore.
Well, you showed us, how it goes under the ground and then comes up in the river. Well, if you're looking up the hill, it was to the right. But now, do you know anything about the going up the left side, like back up toward the top of the mountain?
There's 3 levels. There's 3 levels in there. I used to be a surveyor when I first got out of college. I worked doing a lot of surveying for the local power company, laying out, power lines and stuff like that, and engineering power services, and then doing some work on cross country, high voltage lines. But because of that, I started working with the mapping team with the National Speleological Society that was out of Huntsville, Alabama. Mm-hmm. And we mapped over 3 miles of passages in that cave. And according to the head surveyor, we just barely scratched the surface.
Well, that's probably one of the reasons why there's so, around you all so much, don't you think?
Yeah. There's at least 4 more entrances here, 4 more ways to get in that farm, into that cave just on our farm. But 2 of them are pits that, well, even the way that y'all saw, you have to have a rope, at least about a 12, 15 foot rope to get down in it.
Yeah.
To the first level. And then after that, you can get into the other 2 levels without further ropes. But there's 2 more entrances that are both like about a 30 foot, vertical drop. And then there's one that's right on the water line down there that it's got water in the mouth of it most of the time. The only time you can get in there without getting wet is during the winter, when they let the water way down so that you can repair seawalls and piers and stuff. And but then the other one is just real small, and I wouldn't go into the other 2. I don't rappel anymore, so I wouldn't go down either one of the pits. And the other 2 entrances are small and tight, and I just don't. I ain't gonna crawl in a place like that, but I know boogers are in there. I want some room,
They can stay in there, get water, get food, all from the same area, and just come out at night and not, that's
right.
People don't realize. I mean, they just like, oh, why don't we see them? Why don't we see them? I mean, they're smart enough.
We were in a cave that's another cave in North Alabama. 3 of us were. And we were in there we had found a place where we could see through a crack about like that into another large chamber. And we were in there digging and picking and trying to dig enlarge enough of that we could crawl through there and explore the rest of that. And we're in there working away. All right. And back then, the lights and stuff you had didn't last all that long. So we used carbide lamps. Mm-hmm. We had, carbide lanterns on our heads, on our hard hats. And we were taking turns doing the digging and stuff. And while one guy was digging, one of us would be raking back all the stuff, and the other guy would be he'd have his light shined on what we were doing, plus a handheld light. a rechargeable MSA light, Mine Safety Administration light, electric light. And anyway, so we were going along, and it was my turn to do the rake in the back of the rocks and everything, and the dirt, and I was to the right. I mean, I was on the left side of the guy that was doing the digging, and then the guy with the lights was on the right. So where he was shining, the light was going past me and back to my left, back out into this big room. And so we're sitting there, trying to enlarge this hole. And all of a sudden, the guy with the light started speaking in unknown tongues. I looked up, and there was a big hairy foot about this long, and an ankle and a leg about that big. We're talking about huge, right there, about 3 or 4 feet in front of me. We're on top of a big pile of loose rock. The next thing I remember, we were down at the bottom of that rock pile, and we were yelling and hollering amongst ourselves, "What's the fastest way out of here?" And you talking about opening up a can of Gone? We opened up an extra large, super fast acting can of Gone. We got our butts out of there, and we were pretty far back in this cave. And the thing about it is, to this day, there's been more expeditions in there. To this day, they haven't found out how to get into that other part of that cave, or where obviously another entrance. Now, I think that they eventually went in there and watered out that hole enough that that they got through. But this old fat boy ain't going back in there.
Can't blame you.
No, I never did go. I've never been back in there.
I don't blame you.
But
we've got old mines and caves here, right where we live. We're not far at way at all, and there's a lot of hidden little caves that a lot of people don't know about. But and then we've got, and right here at the river, we got food, shelter, and everything. And but I mean, there's not any sightings here. Not since we were kids. When we were kids, we heard about sighting, but but I know, I've seen sign here. I know they come through here at least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're staying here, but they're coming through.
I got a big old pile of dump truck load of dirt right down the hill here, and we're still filling holes in around our yard and everything when we built the house and all. And anyway, I was down there weed eating that thing, and right up on top of it was a beautiful, about a 17 and a half, 18-inch track, and it appeared to be a female track. So if it was, that's an alpha female, and I found 2 of them right up on top of that dirt pile.
Wow!
And, boy, they were mashed down good. It was real dry then, and that track was mashed down good, 2.5, 3 inches into the ground, and
that's a pretty good size one for even a female, especially too, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Well, I'm not 100% sure that there might have been a little bit of slippage in it, but you can see the mid-tarsal ridge real clearly. And I tried to take pictures of it. Of course, usually it didn't turn out. And it had been there long enough that the weeds had grown up through it. So my pictures got a bunch of chopped up grass and everything. And I ain't got anything to cast it with. I've never cast a track in my life. A lot of these researchers say if you ain't casting tracks, you're not doing research. Well, I'm more interested in seeing the Bigfoot itself. And, I've seen enough tracks to know what's going on. I've seen enough other people's tracks to know what's going on.
And there's a difference between a researcher and a knower.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good question there.
Absolutely, positively. Sex can be determined from a track. Yes. Yep.
Sure. He's asking how, Kumbo. Exactly
how?
Yes, sir.
They don't. They don't know how.
the female tracks smell like perfume, and
Skinner,
anyway.
you asked for that one.
No, seriously. The male tracks are, I mean, they may be wide, like this, they're usually not, square, straight sided like ours are, but they may be flared out. And my arthritis hands, I can't open my hands up all the way anymore. But anyway, the male tracks are pretty much straight on either side. And the female tracks will be curved on
Outside.
sometimes the outside of it will look a little bit straight, but the inside at least will be curved. But very often they're curved almost like a banana or a real wide banana or a real wide boomerang.
Mm-hmm.
But they're curved, and they're curved towards the inside. So if you see also the male tracks, when they walk, the tracks are one right behind the other, just straight behind the other.
Mm-hmm.
The female, their hips are wider, so their tracks are alternating, here, like that.
Right.
Just like our tracks, because they have wider hips. And theirs will be, curved, they'll be turned in like that towards the center. And if you happen to find on a sandbar or in a ditch or something like that, or across a plowed field, and you see multiple sets of female tracks, which that's not unusual. I've got some pictures of multiple sets, and one of them is really spread apart, and it's towards the end of the summer, early fall, into the fall, then that was probably pregnant.
The curve's a little bit more pronounced, isn't it, during that time too? Seems like.
Well,
or just from the way they're walking.
Yeah, but yeah, they waddle. You can tell that they're waddling. Yes, Skidder. The female tracks are like pigeon-toed, and the male tracks are right straight in front of each other. And if they're walking straight, and the male's tracks are straight on both sides. They'll be, he may be straight here and the other one, going like that, but they'll be relatively straight. And generally the male tracks are more like blunt looking. They're wider across the heel and wider across the ball of the foot, because the males will get up to, like I said, there's one that's been seen many times. He's gone now out in East Texas. That dude probably weighed around 2,200 pounds. He was 12 feet tall.
Ooh.
Yeah. And that dude, he threw some tremendous tracks. Like 25-inch tracks or something like that. And, but the big one here on our farm that we had for years, he would throw a 22-inch track. And but the alpha female would generally throw around maybe a 16, 17-inch track. That's why I'm saying these 18-inch tracks that I found could have been a male track that had some slippage in it.
Mm.
Could have been.
Yeah.
I don't know. But there may be some big-footed females out there. But I'd say, if you've got a 11-foot male that throws a 22-inch track, there's a
Wendell.
You could, I could see that he may have a mate that they're out of the same bloodline, a mate that would maybe have an 18-inch track. But
I'm going to tell you something. None of us want to run into that one.
Yeah. But I know that the female that walked up on me when I was back on taking a nap on the bluff there. I found her tracks numbers of times out here, and she had about a 16 and a half inch track. Yeah, about 16 and a half, 16 and 3/4, something like that. But I found her tracks several times in different places.
A lot of us wonder, everybody somebody's talking about that the other day about, they're there but you can't see them. If you had something that huge and it turned sideways, like, and they're just really still, it would look like a tree, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
If you didn't look close enough, they couldn't be there and you wouldn't even know it.
Absolutely. I know numbers of people who have been out in the woods and stuff, just hiking or hunting or whatever, and they think that they're seeing an big old stump or something out there. They're just walking along. All of a sudden, the stump gets up and runs away. And I know I walked up here a couple of years ago. No, it's been a year. Yeah, it was a couple of years ago now. I walked up on a female right out here in the driveway, and it was at night, and I had a flashlight with me, but I was walking the dogs, and I was going along, and one of the dogs all of a sudden stopped and growled just a little bit, and then turned around, back to the house he goes. And wow.
Mm-hmm.
I got and I flipped the light on. I had walked, there's a yard light out in my grandmother's old yard, but I had walked far enough past that the light from the yard light was blocked out. So I flipped on my flashlight I had with me, and right there in front of me and wide open, nothing between me and her but air, was about a probably I don't know, I guess she was probably pushing probably 8 feet tall, something like that, maybe 7.5 feet tall female, right there in front of me, grown female. And when I put the light on her, she turned sideways and she stepped. There was a cedar tree on the left of her, and about a 2-foot diameter oak tree to the right of her, and there's a fence line goes through there, and it's the fence line that is 3-foot high hog wire, which that's a type of woven wire fencing. It's 3 feet high to the top of it, and then there's 3 strands of barbed wire on top of that. So that fence is just a little less than 4 feet tall, and she turned sideways and just stepped over it like it was nothing, and she stepped in behind that oak tree, and then started tree peeking at me. But I could still see her. She was wide enough I could still see her shoulders when she was behind the tree, but she didn't wander off. I mean, she didn't take off, which I thought was odd. Then about that time, I heard something on the other side of she was now on the west side of the fence row, and I heard something on the west side of the fence row, but further south of me, and I suddenly realized that it was the night, the garbage comes the next morning. So we'd all, me and the neighbor, had put our garbage out in the garbage cans, and they always get down there and mess through the garbage, pick through the garbage. Now, interesting thing, they don't throw the garbage around. They leave it in the can, believe it or not. Now, occasionally we'll have a dog get down there and make a big mess, but they don't make a mess. They'll pick through it. And then I shine my light around here, and here comes the male walking up from the garbage cans. And he walks up behind the female, and he just walks up behind her, sort of like we do to our wife or something. And I don't know if he put his hands on her sides or her arms or shoulders, whatever, but he walked right up behind her, and his head was fully over the top of her head. He was looking over the top of her, looking at me. And I'm sitting there, got the light on him, and old Jake was still alive then, and Jake is sideways, and he's pushing me, trying to get me to go into reverse,
Mm-hmm.
And I was less than 30 yards from him. In other words, less than 90 feet, and about 75 feet, and maybe about 25 yards. And I realized that I was 25, 30 yards from that alpha pair right there. And I was over 250 yards to the house. And I decided it's time for me to ease out of here. So I just started backing up the road. Oh, I talked to him. I said, hey, sorry to bother y'all. I'm leaving. Y'all have the garbage. Do anything you want to out here, but don't hurt my dogs. We'll get along fine. And so I backed off up the driveway, and I backed up for about 150 yards before I turned my back on him and scampered back to the house.
Mm-hmm.
But they just stood there and never moved. And once I turned my back on them and went just a little bit, and then I turned back, they were gone. I don't know if they went back down to the garbage cans or where they went, but they were gone. But what's that right there? Oh, what's Pyro saying about the tribe?
They were asking about shaman. How many was he a shaman? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
And he said no. He said only a handful is left in their 500,000 member tribe.
Well, I can tell you this about shaman is my great grandmother, depending on who you listen to, was either full blooded or half Cherokee, and her dad, when her dad and her brothers would go out hunting, now they lived up in the Appalachians. Up
Where we are,
North Carolina, and it's where they lived. And they would go out hunting, and they knew what part of the woods were theirs and what part belonged to the Nununui, which is what they called the Bigfoot up there. They call them Nununui.
Mm-hmm.
And if they killed it, if they shot a deer or something or whatever game they were hunting that got over onto the Nunui's property or part of the woods, they would not go in there after it. They would go get their medicine man or shaman or whatever, their holy man. They'd go get him. He would come up there, and they would do a little ceremony, and then they would go in there and they would find the animal and dress it and everything. And they would normally they would keep the tongue and the kidneys and the heart and the inside tenderloins. But what they do, they would always leave the liver. But they'd leave the liver and the kidneys and the heart there, and one front shoulder, and oftentimes the head, or possibly just the tongue, or possibly the whole head. They'd leave there for them, and they would take the rest. And if they ran into any kind of trouble on the way out, they would leave the whole animal and skedaddle out of there.
Hmm.
But I learned that from my grandmother and through my great grandmother. But anyway, they very, very absolutely positively respected their territory. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick asked me about what I thought about the UFO thing, the big,
Yes.
big deal that's been going on. Well, I saw my first one when I was in high school, and my grandfather saw one on the way home from work and took a picture of it. And when he called, back then they used to advertise, this is back in the 50s, Project Blue Book, and was going on then. And he called somebody or told somebody about the picture, and Air Force guys, got it and got the negatives, and he never heard anything, and they took a big report about it. He never heard anything back. However, in the book, Project Blue Book, Granddaddy's picture, or Pappy Garner's picture, is in there along with the sighting report. And like I said, I saw one that was seen by hundreds of other people around here back when I was in high school, and it was a daylight sighting. Pappy's sighting was right at dark. It was getting dark. Then we had an incident during one of the shuttle flights. This was in 84 or 85. We had a run in with the Black Knight satellite, and I didn't know what it was. I had never heard of it, but I got educated pretty quick. And then we had a certain ones of us that were there that saw some of the stuff. We had a debriefing after the mission, and things were explained to us, and of course we couldn't talk. We all had top secret clearances and couldn't talk.
Right.
And then so fast forward, that was in 84, late 84, I think is when it was. Then fast forward to 1989, and we had an incident out at White Sands Missile Range. We all got taken down to the base headquarters and convinced that we didn't see anything. But then certain ones of us got an additional briefing after that, and with a lot more detail. Mm-hmm. And we were told that they're here, that they can disguise themselves. That the ones that are here is what the people are calling the Greys, and that they are reptilian. A lot of them for sure are reptilian, and that there are some of them that are here there's a lot of them already here living in amongst us that appear to look like us, but they're disguised somehow, and that the ones that the people referred to as whites, those are what we call angels, and that they're also what's referred to as the watchers in some of the scriptures and stuff. And they're saying sort of staying back out of the way, but when the next level of the reveal hits, and they sort of come out and they start they're the ones pushing the new world order, the world government and everything, and they're the ones that are going to try to do the 666 stuff and all that. And when they try that, a lot of the churches are going to resist, and they're going to attack those of us that resist. And when that happens, that's when the angels will step in. That's when the whites will come to our rescue to come help us. And I have met one person once I was sort of knew what to look for. I've met one person since then that I'm 99.9% sure that he was one of them. One of the things that we were warned about, that if you run into somebody that's and they act like they know too much about you. And they start inviting you to like to go fishing or go hunting or go on a hiking trip or a backpacking trip. Don't do it. This guy asked me, first time I ever met him, first time I met the guy, he starts talking about going pheasant hunting. You know, he knew that I was a hunter, and he started trying to get me to go pheasant hunting with him up in a place in Iowa. Well, it just so happened that I had a friend that worked up there, and that was from up there in the southern edge of this area. So I called him up, and I said, "Hey, I got this guy trying to get me to go hunt pheasant hunting with him up north of these particular towns." And he says, and this is a good Christian friend of mine. We were in Bible study together for years.
Right.
And he says, "Who was that guy?" And I told him, I said, "I just had met him." And I said, and he knew that I was a hunter already, and I hadn't said a word to him. And he's, we started talking about hunting, and he started, ask me, and I mentioned, I like to hunt and everything. And he started trying to get me to go pheasant hunting with him and said he liked to pheasant hunt up in this area. I said, "Where do you go?" And he told me this area. He said, "Dude," he said, "you stay away from him." He said, "That area where you're talking about," he said, "that's where the mob buries bodies all the time." He said, he may not be an alien, but you don't want to go up there with him. He said, "There's all kind of bad stuff goes on in this area."
Wow.
He said, "That's where you find the graves out in the cornfields and stuff like that." And he said, "People disappear up there all the time." He said, "You need to stay away from him." So I always did. Thing about it is, I worked for that guy off and on over the next 14 years up until I retired.
Mm-hmm.
And I still get a newsletter from them. And he was in this last newsletter I got, and he still doesn't look like he's aged a day.
Wow. That tells you something right there.
He was fully gray haired the first time I met him, and he ain't changed a bit.
How old was he then?
I'd say he was probably in his middle 60s then. Yeah. And he's got to be, I worked there for 14 years, and when I saw this newsletter was just last year, and I've been retired since 2020. So, 14 plus 14 years took me to 2020, and then you add another 5, and so 19 years have passed, and he's still there, and he doesn't look a day older. And I'm convinced that he's one of them. His eyes didn't. First time I laid eyes on him, his eyes didn't look right to me, and he's got the weirdest looking eyebrows I've ever seen. I mean, his eyebrows are weirder than Mr. Spock's, on Star Trek. I mean, they're different. I mean, they're not up like that. They're just he's got weird eyebrows. And the closest thing I've ever seen to eyebrows like his was in the original Dune movie. A guy that one of the characters in there, but his eyes are really strange. So I know for a fact that they're here, and they've been here for quite a while. And I think they've always been watching us, probably since the time of Adam. But I think at least the angels have been watching over us. But I think what brought the Greys in here was the nuclear bombs and stuff during World War II, and then all the nuclear testing since then. And,
I don't mean to interrupt you. If I don't say something while I'm thinking about it, I'll forget.
Yeah, well, you're not interrupting.
That's kind of what the question was about. Like, why are we supposed to be doing this? I think we are. I think we're supposed to be helping to get this kind of stuff out to the other people in the world, so that they will be prepared if they're here when this happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All of this,
I think based on stuff I've read in the Old Testament and in the Book of Enoch and stuff, and these Nephilim and everything, and I know that Bigfoot respond to a shofar. I've proved that.
Mm-hmm.
But that still doesn't guarantee that they're Nephilim. But what I do know is when you get in really digging, the ones that are going to be using the shofar to call up these creatures like Bigfoot and everything, they're the archangels.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they're calling them up. And one of the things that they're supposed to do is they're supposed to wipe out a quarter of the population of the earth. Now, I don't think an archangel, one of our archangels, one of God's Heavenly Father's archangels, is going to be calling up Nephilim to wipe out us Christians. No, I think that the ones that are going to get wiped out are the ones that are with Satan.
Yeah.
But there are going to be those that are called up by Satan's minions to wipe us out. So that's why I realized when I got to studying that scripture and seeing when I saw how it works and the fact that it does work, and I got to digging back in the scriptures, and I realized that I'm screwing around with something that is supposed to be only done by archangels.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't mess with it anymore.
Yeah, we haven't been using ours either because we got success with it too.
And and seeing what it does to the other animal. The first time I ever blew it successfully, when that whole big pack of coyotes came out and came to us and laid down there in front of us for protection, and they were hunkered down as low as they could go and whining when the boogers came up close. And we had 3 different troops of boogers, and they never even looked at each other. Normally you get 2 troops of boogers in that close proximity, there's going to be a fight. There's going to be war breakout. They didn't even pay attention to each other. They were totally focused on me. And that and they hung around for almost nearly 45 minutes before they disappeared. Started moving away.
Yeah.
Mitch, we know the frequency profile, but that's private information. I am not revealing that information to anybody.
He's trying to protect everybody.
Right.
Exactly.
As a matter of fact, I believe we did it, but it's no longer available for even to myself. So, like I said, we're messing around with something that we shouldn't be messing with.
Right. Exactly.
And so I know it sounds wonderful and everything, but truly this is something that is not intended for us to be messing with.
If you have the bad experience with it, you won't want it.
And we got a hold of something one night. We've had a number of them come up and just stop and sit there and look at us. They come in hard, fast, and loud until they can lay eyes on us, and they just stop and sit there and stare at us.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll for at least 30 minutes, and then they'll start wandering off. But now one time we had something coming in on us, and that thing was intending on killing us. There's no doubt that thing was coming to kill us. And we got the heck out of Dodge. That one incident was totally different than the rest of them. And after that, that's when we decided we best quit messing with it, because if we hadn't gotten out of there when we did, I wouldn't be here now. I know that in my heart. that thing was coming in to kill every one of us. That one and whoever was coming with him. And we had another incident happen accidentally when we were out coyote hunting one night using a different kind of a call, but it got up into it could hit some of the same frequency range. And you've heard me tell the story, the one that charged us through the cutover and came out and it actually hit my truck and ripped this is an old 68 Chevy, 3/4 ton, or what they call a heavy half ton. It had the big heavy doors, had all the 3/4 ton running gear and everything. And I had the big heavy doors with the welded together window frames, had the big heavy West Coast mirrors that screwed right into pretty heavy steel, and it ripped one of those right off the side of my truck. That thing, if it could have gotten a hold of us, it would have killed us.
I mean, the night that I decided I was done with it too, Missy and I were by ourselves that night I was telling you about. And I didn't know if we was going to get out of there or not. Yeah.
You probably heard Greg talk about it when that thing came in. I mean, it came in. It was me and it was four of us. It was me and Greg and Jimmy Osmer and Alan White. And of course, Alan's passed away since then, so there's only three of us still alive. But that thing was coming to kill us. Absolutely.
You can tell by the calls they do.
Yeah. Yep. And the thing about it is, if they can hear you, we've called them from over 2 miles away. I know we called some off of a hill in Oklahoma, and we got on them some real good maps on Google Earth, and we verified they came from 2.5 miles away, and it came to us. And I mean covering some ground. Those dudes can piddle along at 35, 40 miles an hour, and they can hit a little over 50 when they got the right motivation. People don't believe that, but I've seen them do it multiple times.
Do you think Bigfoot will be for us or against us when the time comes?
I think some will be for and some will be against.
Yes, I do too.
I do too. Yep. There's a book series, and I can't remember the name of it. I read the whole series, and I've got the books here. I need to get those out and show them to so people might want to read them. Really good. But it's been a while since I read them, and it happens in that book the way that's written. And when I read that book, it just hit me just like that. That's exactly like what's going to happen. Sometimes God just puts stuff in your head like, shut up and listen. This is coming, and this is what's going to happen. But you got to listen.
Skitter. He didn't rip the whole door off. He tore up the upper part of the door, the weldments and everything. Back then those things. The door, the upper part of the door, where that the window rolled up into was made out of 3 different pieces of steel. All that was torn loose. The West Coast mirror was ripped out of it and was also ripped out of the bottom part of the door. And there's like a 3/16 or something like that piece of metal in behind the door that thing screwed into. That was all. The door was all bucked out. But the bottom part of the door stayed attached to the truck. The top part of the door was tore all to pieces.
Okay.
But but those things, I thought of something else before I got to answer that question. Forgot it now. But anyway, yeah, I believe there's good ones and there's bad ones. I mean, obviously, the ones out here on our farm. Our family's been here 4 generations, and there were people. There's white folks who've lived here since the 18 teens and stuff like that. Now, some of the first ones that lived here got on their wrong side. There were 2 people killed right here on the edge of the farm back in the 18 teens, and both of them had apparently shot at one. And both of them were found with their heads torn off. or ripped off or whatever. And one of them, their musket, they had all they had was muskets back then. One of them's musket was busted all to pieces and everything, and the other one's musket, it had been fired but it hadn't been hurt. They only found one of the brothers. There were two brothers that had moved over here from either Sweden or Denmark, one of the two. I don't remember which. Their names were Shagog, but they found only one head, and one of the brothers, they never found his head. But why do I think that some of us see them? I sometimes think that we're marked, and I don't know. And I think we've noticed several common things amongst those of us that see them a lot, and that's something that we don't really reveal. But there's a common thread through a lot of us researchers that see them a lot. But I do know this, that once you ever see them one time, you're going to see them again if you still keep going out in the woods and stuff. Because I believe, I believe that it changes something in your brain, and that changes your aura or something, and they pick up on that. I believe, you're marked. I believe
you're on their radar after that.
Right, exactly. Now, people don't believe in auras, but they are for real. There was a type of photography called Carillion photography. I'm not sure how it's spelled, but you can look it up. National Geographic did several articles about it back in the 60s and 70s. Carillion photography. They could photograph people's auras, and it would show up. It would show people's auras. It would also show if people had lost a limb, their missing limb would show up in the pictures that were taken of the people using that type of photography. I don't know what's a good way to initiate contact with them. I mean, the first time I saw one, it walked up underneath my bedroom window during the night, and I heard it walking on. We didn't have gutters on our house, so we had about a 4 foot wide strip of crushed stone, gravel around our house. So the rain would come off and hit that, and wouldn't splash mud up on the side of the house. It'd hit that gravel. And I heard somebody out there walking on that gravel outside my bedroom window. This is back when we slept with the windows open at night before we had air conditioning.
Yeah.
I got up and leaned out the window and looked, and there's one out there, outside my window. But I didn't have another close-up encounter with them until I was, I guess my next close-up encounter was really close-up encounter was that would have been when I saw that one was in 1959 or either, I believe it was 1959. And when the next one I saw up close was that I saw really good up close would have been in 1978 or 79. So like 20 years. But now I had heard them a lot since then. I had called them up. My dad and I had been screamed at several times, and but I didn't see them good. I just got glimpses. Astral energy, okay. but they, like I said, we firmly believe that once you ever see one, that you're sort of marked.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
It's pretty young.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I saw mine I was 4 when I saw it. And it was I leaned out the window and it was those old crank out, old timey, what do they call those things? Old crank out windows is
Rollouts.
yeah, the rollout, but there's a casement windows.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right.
They used to put them up fairly high in the wall,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and that's what this one was. And so I was sleeping on the top bunk on a bunk bed, so the window was right there beside me, and it was open. The I heard the crunching on the gravel, and the screens were on the inside. I had a couple little clips on, just popped the clips loose. I raised it up.
Hmm.
I looked down, nothing. I looked to the right, nothing. I looked over here, and there the son of a gun was, and it was up against the wall, and it was up against the wall like this, and it had its head turned looking at me, and I remember I could see its right arm and right hand, and it had that hand flat against the brick on the house.
Mm.
And I'm sitting there looking at it, and I'm like, I didn't know what to do. I just sit there, I'm sure bug-eyed, and all of a sudden it goes like that. It bared its teeth at me. And I truly, to this day, I don't know if it was trying to smile at me or or threatening me. I don't know, but it bared its teeth at me. And I went flying into my parents' off the bed into my parents' room, yelling, Mama, Daddy, there's a yellow-eyed, bloody-headed monster outside my window, because the eyes were reflecting the moonlight, and they were reflecting yellow, and it was sort of an auburn-colored hair it had, and it was real. His hair was, the ones out here are clean. They all look like they just came from the beauty shop, and that moonlight was a glinting in its hair and stuff, and it looked like it had a little bit of red, blood in its hair, and like little flecks of blood, but it was just sort of the highlights of the hair is what it was, and but my parents never questioned anything. My dad jumped out of the bed, went running out of the house in his boxer shorts, nothing but his boxer shorts and a pair of slippers, with a big old ever-ready flashlight in one hand and a Browning A5 shotgun in the other. And Mama locked us in the bedroom, and it took us in the bathroom, and we locked in there. And I don't know if it doesn't. The Bible doesn't say Sasquatch. It talks about I think it says Nephilim, and I think some of them do have to flee at the name of Jesus. The demonic ones, the satanic demonic ones, anything like that has to flee at the name of Jesus. I think there's a lot of boogers out there that are not that way. That are not satanic or no, they do reproduce, absolutely positively.
Mhm.
Yeah, we've got an area here on our farm. My mom used to call it the Sanctum Sanctorum, or inner sanctum, and or the Holy of Holies back here on the back of the farm. And when they migrate into here in October, there's usually at least one of the females be pregnant, and they have their babies back there on the back of the farm up on this one particular ridge. And you guys have been back there when I drove y'all back there, and drove in there, and boy, they didn't like it.
No.
Remember how we were getting blasted and everything?
Mhm.
They did not like it.
Yeah.
And, but then we've got recordings of babies crying in the woods back there. In fact, my favorite one is one of my buddy Peck White's drop boxes, and we were camped one ridge over, and this, what you hear on here, you hear, wah, 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 and then it gets quiet.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was Mama fussing at it or Daddy fussing at it, but that one was crying, and somebody fussed at it, and it shut up. wish I could have done that with my son. My daughter was the best baby in the world. She rarely ever cried. And my boy came out squalling, didn't shut up till he was 4 years old. But he's a good kid. He's a wonderful kid. I love him. I'm very, very proud.
He may have had bellyache a lot.
Yeah, well, he did. He had colic, but he really didn't cry that long. But it seemed like it at times. Though.
When you're trying to sleep.
I wished I could have yelled at him and gotten him to shut up. But
y'all, it's got any more questions? Put them up before we're getting ready to probably close.
And yes,
this has been good.
They do not want us close to their young.
Yes.
That's absolutely
right.
Positively.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
This has been a really good show. They all are that you do, but this one you've touched on a lot of little different things, and it's that I thought was really good.
Yeah.
They're always good, but I mean, most of us want to hear you because you're experienced, and you have so much to share and how to handle this. And number one, get in trouble, talk to them, right?
Yeah.
And stay calm.
Calm.
Don't look them in the eye. And if you got
look them in the eye,
and do not look them in the eye. If they're aggravated at you, do not look them in the eye. Or
be humble.
Or if you just come up on one and it's just standing there staring at you, don't give them the stink eye. And but
you need to be humble about it.
Yeah, you need to be humble.
Sorry.
And if you got a gun, for God's sakes, if it's a handgun, keep it in your pocket or whatever, and don't point it at them. The very last thing you want to do is shoot one. I mean, that's there are quite a few reports out there of somebody shooting one, and then before it dies, it kills a lot of other people before it dies, or if the person happens to drop one, then the rest of the troop comes in and wreaks havoc. You'd be surprised how many valid reports of that are out there.
Kumbo, real quick, I was just going to tell you, that's my youngest granddaughter. When she found out she was going to be on tonight, she said, "Oh, I'm definitely going to watch."
I knew it was one of them, but I didn't know. I hadn't seen her thing there before, so.
Excuse me. But anyway.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
I was just looking at some of the
comments.
Yeah. Seems like a quantum creature is an invisible wave, and consciousness can make it solid. I don't know about that, but I just know I've seen them do some things that from Patrick down there at the bottom. I don't know. I've seen them do some things that can't be explained. I've seen them walk through briars and brush that would take a bulldozer to push through it, that a human couldn't even begin to penetrate, and they just disappear through it. At least some of them, I don't know if all of them do, but at least some of them can somehow pass through stuff. I mean, they've got some strange abilities. And I don't know if all of them do, but for sure some of them do. Absolutely positive. Yeah.
Abby.
Is Abby on there? Hey there.
Hey, Uncle Kumbo.
Hey there, Abby. Glad to see you on here.
Gotta take care of the kids.
Where's your ugly daddy?
Hey, Abby.
Hey, Abby. Oh, that's right. I forgot to say hi to Aunt Verby. Good to see.
Yeah,
Good
we
to
didn't either.
see you.
She's
Yeah.
a sweetheart.
Yes, she is. Sure is. But I'm glad to see Wendell and Patrick and Gary Spikes and
Yes.
Iro and a bunch of our other friends and stuff. There's Greg. He says he's watching. He's
Yeah.
been quiet.
He got on a little apology back.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find that one to shut down. My eyes are running together.
Yeah.
You got it up. Sure is what it is. Wait a minute.
I know I'm trying to get it down. I can't find it in the column to get it down. It's moving fast again.
I got you.
Okay. Well, Kumbo, we love you. We appreciate you. And
Yes.
we appreciate all the, I know from the time that I got started that, you helped me a lot, you and a lot of others. And with all of my questions and just more of the big family. And we just want you to, we appreciate you. And we appreciate all the good information and help that you give everybody.
Well, I hope I didn't, repeat too much old stuff over and over again, but I had
No.
folks asking legit questions and stuff. So
this was a real good show. I mean, we touched on a lot of new things and questions and things, and it was really good. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
We appreciate all of y'all too for being here.
Hey, and everybody stick around as we do the outro. We've got, if we miss anybody, we apologize. Send us on our email address and we'll put you on, but we are trying to put at the end of it all of our sister family and everybody, so that our shows and stuff, so that we'll all band together.
I'll do that, Gary. Yeah. All righty.
Yeah, y'all remember Sandy, Kumbo's wife, in prayer too.
Yeah, give Miss Sandy our love too, Kumbo.
I'll do that.
She's nice.
Hey, Gary, I'm gonna be calling you here in the next day or two.
Okay, we done? Okay, I'm gonna run the end stream, and that list of the sister shows will show that this is the first time it's done it, so it may not work good or something, but we'll get it worked out if it doesn't.
You be going in. Oh Lordy.
Bye. Love y'all.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
Little bit of beep, 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 beep. That's a months of meter. I'm a southern Appalachian Sasquatch seeker. Looking in a cave, looking in a hollow, looking on a mountain, looking in the water. Little bit of beep, 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 beep. That's a month of meter. I'm a southern Appalachian Sasquatch seeker. We're going seeking, gonna see what we can find, gonna look high and low and around, and maybe we'll find just what we're looking for. It don't matter if it's night or day, rain or shine, we won't stop till we find just what we're looking for. Some say they might be the devil, others say they're the masters of the woods. Well, I don't know and I don't care, but I'll tell you this, I know the real. When we hear that howl as it's coming closer, and we feel the thunder of the steps, will we look it face to face, or will we just run? Some say they might be the devil, others say they're the masters of the woods. Well, I don't know and I don't care, but I'll tell you this, I know they're real. When we hear that howl as it's coming closer, and we feel the thunder